if I may just come back to two words and two definitions you used. One was improvements. Can I ask you, Aung San Suu Kyi, what would be the priorities which you would see for such improvements?
I have to say job creation, because I'm extremely worried about the high level of unemployment in my country, particularly youth unemployment. As I mentioned earlier, that's a time bomb. Many of our young people are already following the wrong path. They sit around at tea shops, but what is worse, some of them sit around at toddy palm shops. And you know what toddy palm is, it's our cheapest alcoholic drink. So, and some of them have taken to drugs, some of them have taken to gambling. If this goes on, we will not be able to reform them, let alone reform our country. So I keep saying, what I'm afraid of is not so much joblessness as hopelessness.
So, Aung San Suu Kyi, you emphasized already, and this is a deep belief also of the World Economic Forum, that business has not only to contribute to economic development, but also to social progress. Now, in Davos, we were very fortunate that you addressed us already 3 months after you have been released from house arrest in 2010, so you had a communication in 2011. And this year, in your video message, you said that economic progress is dependent on more than just fiscal and monetary measures, need to be upheld by judicial and legislative reforms to ensure that sound regulations and laws are administered justly and effectively. Now, I take this statement and enlarge it a little bit. How do you see the evolution of the judicial framework in your country?
You're setting me off on my favorite subject. I'm afraid I'm going to be a terrible bore. I've always insisted that rule of law was most important issue. And we've had to try to make people understand in Burma, I think in Burma rather than elsewhere, that by rule of law, we did not mean new laws. And by rule of law, we did not simply mean laws aimed at protecting the rights of political activists. Some people in Burma think that's what we're talking about when we talk about the rule of law. So I have to insist, ad nauseum actually, that there are many good laws already existing in Burma, but we do not have a clean and independent judicial system. And unless we have such a system, it is no use having the best laws in the world. So would-be investors in Burma, please be warned. Even the best investment law would be of no use whatsoever if there are no courts that are clean enough and independent enough to be able to administer those laws justly. This is our problem. And so far, we have not been aware of any reforms on the judicial front. We keep saying we need judicial reforms, but I have to confess that not many in the government seem to agree with this. They do not seem to think that there's a need for judicial reform, or perhaps they don't think there's an urgent need for judicial reform. But I consider the need to be very urgent indeed. Let us start with rule of law before we start studying what the new investment law is about.
Billions of people have been on your side when you were confined to house arrest. Now you are the official chairman of the National League for Democracy, the opposition leader. What would you expect from the world to support you? And I have to add, to support the reconciliation process, not only as far as different people are concerned, but also politically in your country. How can we deal with the two sides, if I may ask you,
well, we need
make sure what we are doing today, but to make sure that the country goes into the direction of democracy, reconciliation, peace, and strong economic development?
We need a balanced approach. We would like the world to look at how much progress there has been on the political front, as well as on the economic front. I would not like you to be over-optimistic. I think optimism is good, but cautious optimism. These days, I'm coming across a lot of what I would call reckless optimism. That is not going to help you, it's not going to help us. So we need a balanced report. A little bit of healthy skepticism, I think, is in order.